last week, just after Yontif actually. It says that it was good twice. Every other day it says once. And to prove that point, we have Rabbi Mendel Kaplan joining us. Good morning, Rabbi Kaplan. How are you today?
Good morning, Martin. I'm fine, Baruch Hashem. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
You know, I have a friend who likes to say every day on this side of the grass is a good day.
Well, he's got a point there.
So we have to make every day good, and we are able to invariably make things better, because whatever Hashem does is good, but we want to make it a good that is overt and that is obvious. It is, however, true with regard to what your mother said on Yom Shlishi. The Torah says twice, Huchval bo kitov. It says the word kitov because it was good twice, and it is considered to be a mazel dika day. So let's make it good. What's on your mind today?
Well, I guess it's hard to say. Well, there's lots of things, of course. The situation in Israel, this situation over here, the elections in the United States. I've got lots of things flying around in my head.
Well, I don't know how to make it good in Israel, other than I know it's a very bad idea to leave the enemies of Israel intact. And I can't for the life of me understand why people are calling for a ceasefire instead of a surrender. Decent people should be demanding that evil people surrender. And when evil people surrender and release the hostages that they kidnapped and stole, then obviously everything is going to be fine, because the reason that there's a war is because there are evil people who have done and continue to do evil things, and as long as evil and bad people will continue to do evil and bad things, then good people will have to do difficult things to deal with it. Somebody once showed me a little, I guess what they call today a meme. He says, if you didn't have bad people, you wouldn't need good lawyers. So,
Right.
so we have, because there are bad people, unfortunately, wars have to be fought, and good people should demand that bad people should surrender, and that bad people should stop
right.
doing bad things.
Kaplan. Can you imagine, the world in World War II was closing in after, I think, the death of Hitler. The German High Command tried to negotiate a peace with a ceasefire with the Allies, in which they said, no way, nothing short of total surrender, unconditional surrender.
Yeah, and that's like obvious to everybody that leaving the Nazis in place would have been a terrible idea, even if it would have in the immediate future or in the short run would have limited bloodshed, because war and bloodshed, sadly and tragically and sickeningly, invariably go together. So if you stop fighting, there's going to be less bloodshed. But if you leave the evil empire in place, if the Nazis had come out of the war still intact, we can only shudder to think of how much more blood would have been shed and how many more innocent people would have suffered. It's funny. Nobody with any kind of sense of normalcy thinks that would have been a good idea. And yet, these same Hamas Nazis, who are exactly, or maybe even worse, because as one wise person said, the Nazis killed your children, these people are happy to kill their own children. This is an evil that is unfathomable. And the idea of leaving this evil infrastructure in place so that it can continue to perpetrate its horrific, murderous activities is something that actually boggles the mind. I can't quite wrap my head around it. I'm quoting other people. Nothing I'm saying right now is terribly original, but I saw a few people say yesterday about a certain extremist element, like a leftist fundamentalist element that seems to be solidifying and taking hold over extreme fringes in the United States, where they are able to see with clarity that Trump is Hitler, but they cannot identify Hamas or Hezbollah as Nazis. And I'm like, right, that sounds kind of strange. Besides the absurdity of that accusation, and it really is absurd. It's just wrongheaded. It's wrongheaded, and it trivializes the Holocaust, and it almost diminishes the monstrous and unimaginable evil that monster represented. Because when you call your opponents as somebody you don't like, you use the worst kind of terminology. You trivialize the evil of who Hitler really was. And I'm going to say, regardless of what your politics are, you should not be okay with that kind of language used. It's actually not only inappropriate, it's totally unacceptable.
Exactly. I agree that these terms like Hitler and Nazis are bandied about very easily these days, and basically, you're right, it trivializes things, and it takes away the impact of those terms. And I think that basically the Israelis offered a very good deal to Hamas. They said, okay, release the hostages, lay down your arms, and then you can leave Gaza safely. And I think that was a little bit too good of a deal. I mean, they didn't accept it, of course, but I think that was more than generous on the part of Israelis. They should have said, okay, lay down your arms, free the hostages, and surrender, and we'll put you on trial like a civilized country would. But
Anyway, so much for all the bad stuff going on in the world, but you started off with the word good. And we should probably talk about good things. So I mentioned yesterday that Noach, who is the hero of this week's Torah portion, is lauded. And the Torah says, Elah told us Noach, these are the descendants, but really we hear about the life and times of Noach before we hear about his descendants. Noach, Ish Tzaddik, Noach was a righteous person. And Rashi tells us that before enumerating his offspring, the Torah made a point of describing his righteousness, because as King Solomon points out, we say Zecher Tzaddik. When you mention a Tzaddik, Livracha, then you have to mention him in a blessed fashion. And the Rebbe once asked an interesting question. Why? Okay, fine. Let's say it says that. It does indeed say that in Proverbs, but why is it so important for us to laud other people's righteousness and heap praise upon them? And the Rebbe said an amazing thing. He said, when you speak good things about people, you help bring out the goodness from within them. And as such, by the Torah's complimenting and praising Noach, it's almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy about Noach. It enables Noach to find his inner voice and goodness and to develop and express it. And we should do our best when we see somebody doing something good to praise them and to speak of it in positive fashion, because good speech can bring about good things as bad speech can bring about bad things. And I'm not talking about inciting violence, which is the mantra of the day. I'm talking about on a spiritual level and on a maybe even a psychoschematic level, that when we use positive language about people, we're able to help them actualize that positive potential. And that doesn't mean when we see wicked people that we should falsely delude ourselves into thinking or saying that they're good. That's definitely not a good idea. That's a terrible idea. And just as it says, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, King Solomon also says, Shem Rishoyim Yirkov, may the name of the wicked rot. And may they indeed rot. And perhaps when we offer that wish, it helps that which is bad and evil to decompose, and may we never know of it. So we're not talking about empty praises. We're not talking about just using good words in a foolish way, which is foolish and accomplishes nothing, but rather when you see somebody doing something good, to make a point of using your powers of articulation to speak about good things in a positive way. So when we see somebody doing something good, we should show appreciation for it, and that kind of dovetails back to what we talked about earlier. The ridiculously and egregiously bad speech that's being bandied about other people is exactly that: ridiculous and egregiously bad. Whether you like Trump or not, or whether you're choosing to vote for him or not, I think that there's nothing wrong with acknowledging some of the good things that he's done. The fact is that he did move the American embassy to Jerusalem, and that is certainly a good thing. Somebody can disagree with a lot of things Donald Trump says and a lot of things Donald Trump does, but that doesn't mean we should ignore something good that he's done. and we should have enough room in our head not to be so kind of extreme. We should be able to appreciate good things for what they are, and to praise and thank people for good things they've done, so that hopefully we can bring more goodness out from other people. And by using nefarious and extreme language, we all lose, and we certainly don't make anything better.
Well, that's very true, Rabbi Kaplan, and I have to agree with you on that. We should take a balanced approach, an unprejudiced view of things. And although in some cases, the evil outweighs the good they did, but give credit for where credit is due.
Listen, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. The fact that the Biden administration did help Israel in the days after October 7th is something we should appreciate. President Biden was supportive, and we should be appreciative of that. I do not appreciate the fact that he began to make demands of Israel that I think are unfair, and no country would be expected to make, and I think that's wrong. And to use terms like arms embargo are wrong. And I'm not going to say that it's good, because it isn't.
Right.
But at the same
you
time,
never know what's going on behind the scenes. Sometimes they say one thing for public consumption, but actually are doing something else.
That may be the case, but there's an expression, "Ein l'dayin ela ma she'ein avrot." We can only judge by what we see. So
Absolutely.
I can speak about good things in a good way, and to be balanced means to be able to look at each detail, each reality, each kind of isolated event or action. And if it's good, we should encourage and praise it. And if it's bad, we should have the courage and stamina to discourage and to criticize it.
Exactly. Anyhow, unfortunately, Rabbi Kaplan, we were once again out of time, but I look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow, God willing.
Well, before I let you go, I'm going to share this, because we talked about good, and we talked about the power of speech. The Rebbe cited a number of times a teaching from some of the medieval Kabbalists that the word Mashiach comes with the same Hebrew letters as the word Masiach, which means to speak. And speaking about redemption, and speaking about Mashiach, and putting it on to people's consciousness, front, right, and center, has a way of accelerating that process. So let's all try to do an extra mitzvah today. Let's try to make our world a little bit of a better place, and do more good things, so that the best of times can unfold for us, be'ezrat Hashem, speedily, and in our days, with the coming of Mashiach b'mheira u'biyameinu. Amen. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. You too, Rabbi Kaplan. We'll speak to you again tomorrow. Okay, now we have, just after this message, we're going to...
And thank you all for joining. Have a beautiful day.